Hello, it's Courtney Barriger, your host of Environmental Style Now, the A to Z podcast on all that is sustainable fashion. Now, on this episode of ES Now, we have fashion activist and coordinator at Extinction Rebellion, Bel Jacobs, here to talk about how you can do your part as an eco-fashion activist. Hello, I'm Courtney Barriger, and this is ES Now. My guest today is Metro of London's former fashion editor turned activist, Bel Jacobs. Jacobs helped coordinate Extinction Rebellion Boycott Fashion, a campaign encouraging people to stop buying fashion for a year. And she provides insight on how to change your buying habits to stop fashion's contribution to the climate crisis. And while she's at it, she's going to tell us how she helped mobilize a funeral march during London Fashion Week. Let's jump right in. I'm so glad to have you. I'm really excited about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's been really a dramatic ride for all of us, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, from the start over the past year, you've managed to block 5 major bridges in London and plant trees in front of Parliament Square, and even like digging a hole to place a coffin in to represent the future. And have you gotten any responses at all from Parliament?
From Parliament, not. I mean, they did declare a climate emergency fairly early on, and then I think the next day immediately commissioned some major transport project. So it's sort of, I mean, I can't speak for all of Extinction Rebellion because it's such a massive, decentralized group. So we all work separately from each other, but under the common concern for raising awareness about the climate emergency. I think what we have noticed is that the term climate change has been slowly eased out and replaced with the term climate emergency, which may not sound like a big thing, and yet for people to see climate emergency in the place of the phrase climate change works at a very subtle level almost, that you're sort of normalizing the fact that this is a huge thing that we need to get our heads around. Hopefully you're not normalizing it so much that everyone just wants to live with it. But I think the impact of Extinction Rebellion has been significant, absolutely massive.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, the word emergency definitely jumps off of the page more than change, because change could be, it could be the spring, it could be the fall. Emergency is, emergency definitely grabs you. Yeah, so how would you say that nonviolent demonstrations for the environment are needed today?
I think the founders for Extinction Rebellion, and particularly Roger Hallam, I think, studied sort of techniques of nonviolent protest as part of a course, literally. And I think he came up with it as, I think for me, it just shows that the citizen and the ordinary person is starting to be concerned enough to put their personal liberty at stake. So the people joining, when I joined Extinction Rebellion, it was really like, thank God there's a group that finally reflects a degree of the panic that I feel about the climate emergency, and it gives me something to do. And I cannot sign any more petitions because they seem to disappear, and I don't quite know how to reach my politically elected representatives effectively enough, and I just need to get out on the street and do something as big as I can with a group of people who believes in the same causes. So I think it's just a way of bringing attention to how urgent ordinary people think this problem is.
And that's one of the things that's very unique to Extinction Rebellion, is that it is self-organized by ordinary people.
It is, and there's so many pros with that and so many cons with that. I mean, I think the pros is that people feel that they're taking control of a situation in which they have felt so powerless before, and they're allowed to, we can do this in very expressive, very creative ways that are important to us. We're not being told what to do by an organization up there. So what you'll get is that, I'm working in the fashion team, so we chose the campaigns that were right for the fashion we felt were right for the fashion industry. And we're all fashion insiders, so we could comment on that. But there are many, many other local groups who sort of went, this thing's happening on our doorstep, we need to tackle it, and this is how we're going to do it. They have to be non-violent, though, and there's always that basic sort of standard. They can be disruptive as possible, but they have to be non-violent.
Yeah, you guys have managed to damage some public property, minor damages, but how do you guys feel about that as a protocol?
I mean, when you say damage public property, the only one I can really think of is when the fake blood was sprayed, I think, over the Treasury in the UK. Mm-hmm. What other damages were you thinking of?
It was just written up that maybe some windows were broken.
Yeah, I think those are not ideal, and that's not ideal at all. And I think a lot of people would agree with me. I think most of Extinction Rebellion would agree that is not ideal. That's not the way we want to go.
I can agree with that too. Just, but I'm as an outsider, I just wanted to ask.
I think if it's not the moment you start breaking windows, you lose. I think you lose so much. I don't even know what the word is. I mean, if I was on a march and we were peacefully moving down, you have the upper hand because you are peacefully demonstrating. The moment you break or damage someone's property, you're breaking the law. You're doing something bad, really, and you've lost so much of your moral standpoint there. So I think when these things have happened, I can only imagine they've been accidents. I'm hoping that that's the case, but I wasn't there, so I can't speak on behalf of those groups. But the fashion group would never damage property, as far as you know.
And in that way, are there any common myths about civil disobedience that people might have about Extinction Rebellion from the outside?
I think a lot of people were saying, well, we don't want to join Extinction Rebellion because we don't want to be arrested. And I think you do not have to be arrested to participate in civil disobedience. There are still formats in place where you can be a part of an action, but you do not need to be arrested. One of the common ones is that if a policeman tells you to get out of the way or gives you certain information that this is an area that is, you're not allowed to be in, and you move out of that area, you will not be arrested. And so what you'll find is that a lot of people go, okay, that's fair enough, I need to get out of this area. I can't be arrested, I'm a mum. Yeah, so, and loads of my group have been arrested, and that is the biggest myth. I think that stops people getting involved. Next question was, does a specific event that you participated in stand out? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the funeral march, which we held on the last day of London Fashion Week.
Wow, tell me about that.
Yeah, it was particularly moving. We just walked down to the main site of London Fashion Week with 3 coffins representing people, planet. Well, 2 coffins representing people and planet. And it was really, really moving. It really stood out in that we tried to incorporate the concerns of the global south as well in the speeches that we gave along the way. Someone who's been on a lot of marches said it was one of the most moving events that they'd ever been to because there was a lot of grief in it, as there is in Extinction Rebellion.
How did the public react to it?
I didn't. Apparently, there was a lot of tooting of horns. We were on a very, very, very busy major road holding up traffic. But the basic response was that it was emotional.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, the fashion industry is one of the major polluting industries in the world. So people aren't necessarily aware of that. How is your group, your specific group, dealing with that?
The way Extinction Rebellion works is to remind people about the climate emergency and the fact that the UN has given us, at the end of last year, it gave us 12 years to take action to mitigate climate disaster or climate catastrophe. And so when we talk in pretty apocalyptic terms that reflect apocalyptic news. So we've always got the climate emergency at the forefront of our action. So when we ask for people to stop buying all clothes and textiles for a year, it's because we're in such an urgent situation. We want people to go, what an outrageous thing to ask. Why could they possibly be asking that? And when they look at the reasonings and they go, oh, we're in a climate emergency, we hope that it'll start to make a little bit more sense to them. Ditto asking British Fashion Council to cancel Fashion Week.
With your apocalyptic headlines, it is really, it grabs your attention for sure.
Yeah, Yeah. But once people start to understand the science, you realize it's not apocalyptic. I mean, in as far as that, that we're working on figures from the UN.
Two questions. One is, what is the future if we don't change anything? And then how do you think we could change things immediately?
Oh, okay. The future for the fashion industry, or the future for the planet?
The future of the planet.
If temperatures continue to rise, we will see Arctic melting, but we will see more severe weather conditions, including droughts in areas that are already struggling to grow food. We will see seawater rises, so a lot of coastal cities will be wiped out. I think the most dramatic and we will see societal breakdown as all these pressures put on our resources. People will start to fight over things that they feel they need but can't have. We sort of try and bring it down to the most immediate thing, which is that food. When the weather changes as dramatically as it will do with the climate emergency, it will be very, very difficult to plan seasons in which you can grow food. Also, our soil is massively depleted by over farming and over chemical use, and we're losing our pollinators and our insect life, and we're losing our wildlife in general. Is this going to happen in my lifetime? Slowly, we'll start to see stuff. You'll start to see stuff, but the full impact will be felt by our children and our children's children. I think it was David Attenborough who said, if we could just ride out the next 80 years whilst taking as many measures as we can to stop carbon emissions, after 80 years it will start to pick up. If we don't make efforts, after 80 years it will start to keep going. I mean, some people are saying human extinction within our lifetime.
So what can we do as individuals?
You stay true to your beliefs, working in the climate. So you live in not only in as sustainable a way as possible, but in as reparative a way as possible. The word sustainable is like, what are we trying to sustain exactly now? Because it's also degraded. What we need to do is repair. So if there is anything that you can do in your life, that from reducing plastics to getting out on the streets with a local Extinction Rebellion group, it has to be done. I mean, we're now in a situation where we should be doing very little that isn't actually trying to help people, planet, and animals as much as possible. Obviously, we need to have a rest occasionally, and that helps, and that will give you the energy to keep moving forward. But I find it really difficult now when I open a women's magazine and it's all just about shop, shop, shop until you drop and get this look and five of the best. And it just seems so out of sync to me. It just seems so weird, like you're reading a newspaper from a magazine from another world. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult for people to grasp the enormity of the situation, because, if I stepped out of my front door now, it looks like life as usual, except for the fact that we've got 125 flood warnings going on in Britain right now.
Are there any emerging technologies that you're excited about?
Yes, there are. Catherine Hamnett, do you know the designer Catherine Hamnett?
I don't actually.
Okay, so she is one of the first fashion activists from the 1980s. She's very interested in hydrogen as a fuel, because she says when it emits, it doesn't emit pollution or it doesn't emit carbon in the same way that petroleum does. It emits water vapor. And so she's very keen on that. I'm more keen, with a fashion lens, on looking at technologies that can separate out sort of, how you get cotton and polyester blends, and when you get a cotton polyester blend, you get cotton sewn with polyester. It's really, really difficult to recycle. Uh-huh. But someone's come up with a technology that can actually separate the strands, which means that from a cotton polyester blend, you'll get two new fibers that you can use for other things. So that's an interesting technology. But I would also say, actually the answers are a lot more simple. We need to plant trees that are going to capture some of the carbon, and we need to reduce consumption massively in all areas, not just clothing. Yeah, whether it can be upscaled fast enough is another issue, because we have a lot of corporations who are very stuck in, like the big brands and fast fashion industries who pretty much want to just do things in the same way that makes profit. It's all about profit, really.
Oh, you'll find even some brands like Patagonia still makes things out of polyester, and their branding is that they are for the environment. So it's a very confusing sort of world where like the brands that you're trying to trust that are doing the right thing aren't necessarily doing the right thing.
I think they'd probably say that all their polyester is recycled, but I don't know that for a fact. You'd probably need to check that one. Mm. But the founder gave a really great interview in Fast Company recently, which you should look up.
I definitely will.
Yeah, I do. It's really, really good, actually. It's very hard line. But his basic feeling was that, you know, in 20 years' time, it's not going to be, the high street is not going to exist in the same way as it does now, because everything will be so in flux with the environment. It's not going to be possible to live as we're living today.
If you could recommend any sustainable brands.
I mean, I was actually going to say, after reading that article by the founder, whose name I can't remember, Yvonne Chouinard, I thought Patagonia might be one, but actually I would actually say, don't go to a big brand. It's a huge brand now. I would say look out for the small local labels in your area who are trying to do the right thing. Certainly in Britain, I don't know about America, but there are more and more tiny labels, weirdly run by women, a lot of them. But there are some men, I mean, women are fantastic. And they're trying to work with communities from the Global South. So they'll get fabrics or they'll get textiles sent from the Global South, or embroiderers working in the Global South, you know, so Africa, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and they'll try and empower communities. And so I think any label that's small, by definition, it has to be small, working with groups that need support in this environment, and working with as ethical and sustainable textiles as possible has to be high on your list. I think a company, once it starts getting big, it's more difficult for it to control sustainability, and it probably doesn't need as much support as the smaller brands. We have a lot of lovely little brands. I'll give you a name called Birdsong. Birdsong's one brand. It's fantastic. There's another brand I like called Maya Miko, Mayamiko. There's a brand, I think, in Sweden called Asket, Asket. They're, again, small, menswear, actually, interestingly enough. And there are all sorts of directories coming up which list these brands. So yeah, there is work happening. But another thing that we'll say is that what the guy from Patagonia says is, like, anything you make, that, you know, every time you switch on a sewing machine, you're having an impact on the climate. So it's something just worth thinking about. We can't shop our way out of this crisis.
To switch gears real quick, I had a couple of questions about Extinction Rebellion, and I wanted to know what it is that you guys are demanding from the governments of the world.
Yeah. So number one, tell the truth. Number two, net zero carbon emissions by 2025, which is incredibly ambitious. That, I mean, if you think about how reliant all of human society seems to be, or most of westernized, rich human society is on fossil fuels, that's quite a big ask. But that's what we want. I think the UN had other groups are saying 2030, but Extinction Rebellion asking for 2025 because the situation is so urgent. The third one was convene people's assemblies. So that's the third demand of Extinction Rebellion. Convene people's assemblies. The reason for that is that we're not a political party that tells people what to do. We want people to hear and truly understand that we are in a climate emergency, and then use all of their abilities and skills, which they already have, to turn this around.
What is a People's Assembly?
People's Assembly is a group of people that are selected to reflect the demographic of the society you live in, who will then come together in a room, and they will be presented with expert evidence as much as possible. They will be coming from all backgrounds. So in that room, you'll have doctors, lawyers, but you'll have bricklayers, you'll have taxi drivers, you'll have everyone. Everyone has a certain expertise that they probably don't know about. And they will be presented with all the, you know, they'll look at a specific target. Let's say they want to stop road building in Britain. What exactly would that entail? And some experts would come on board and go, look, this is what we need to do. This is why we need to do it. Da, 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 da. And then they'd thrash out a real set of policies that would actually tackle that. It's a huge and ambitious project. The UK is doing one, but they're not making the findings legally binding. So that's a bit of a toothless wonder. It's a start, though, isn't it?
It is. This is a very new concept. Democracy is all about electing individuals, whereas it sounds like the Citizens' Assembly is almost like choosing at random. In America, we have jury duty, where anyone can be chosen to represent your populace.
Yes. I think it does sound a bit more like that, doesn't it? I'm just looking at a new thing. Parliament is forming a citizens' assembly to tackle climate change. 30,000 letters will be sent out, but I think only a small portion of those will be picked. The citizens' assemblies are a way to get a diverse collection of people together to hear from experts and those with lived experience of the topic being discussed. And the government wants to seek views on how emissions can be reduced. Downing Street has got a target of achieving net zero emissions by 2050, so it's 25 years later than Extinction Rebellion. And Extinction Rebellion raised concerns that the citizens' assemblies wouldn't be listened to because it's not legally binding, but they hope that it's the first of many more to come. We're putting the power back in the hands of the ordinary people because the democratically elected representatives seem to be all over the shop, prey to all sorts of influences. I think we've lost a bit of faith in that. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, seems to be working incredibly closely with Trump to do some kind of thing about Brexit. It's just and trade deals or, there's a lot of disillusionment about the current political system.
Same over here.
Yeah.
Believe me, it is a very interesting environment over here.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I can imagine. Oh my God.
Also, I think it's strange, but I think that the average consumer isn't aware that polyester is made from fossil fuels.
No, I think no, probably, definitely no. Yeah, you're right. And then the other thing we often look at is sort of the sheer influence of the fossil fuel organizations, because they don't want us to stop using plastic. It's a fantastic source of income for them. And then someone forwarded me this awful article saying plastic production is due to go up by 40 to 50% over the next few years.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So, because it is really depressing. And again, it's like, okay, who's driving this production? Let me see if I can find it for you. Just the most depressing thing. But again, the fossil fuel companies do have a say in this. Yeah, plastic boom. Here it is. I'm going to send it to you now. Just when we don't need it. This stuff is never going to go away, and they're just producing more of it.
It seems like it's in the news now,
Yeah.
Every day I see something about the climate. And it's oftentimes, you're right, emissions and plastic. And yet plastic production's going up?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but absolutely. It's actually, I'm laughing with sheer grief. It is. Hold on, let me see if I can. I mean, you've got the article now. I just sent it to you. But yeah, plastic boom. The rate of plastic production is set to triple by 2050, introducing tons of new materials to infiltrate the environment and spew greenhouse gases. Recycling won't help. Most plastic can't be recycled more than once anyway. Yeah, it's really shocking. But, you do have to ask, who's it being driven by? And it's going to be driven by people who make money out of the plastic boom.
Yeah, I mean, our political systems have been shaped around making fossil fuel companies successful. I mean, especially in America, 100 years ago, that's what sort of brought us out of the Depression. It's so tied in with the government now that especially with our president being who he is, it's a really frustrating place as a conservationist.
Oh my God, I cannot even imagine. Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the same with pharmaceuticals, I think. I think pharmaceuticals and petrochemicals are very interlinked, I think, because pharmaceuticals use some ingredients from the petrochemical industry. So that's going to explode, and that's probably not a good idea for people or planet either. It's really, really shocking time.
I agree. But, you're right. The best angle is awareness, and then also alternative things to buy.
Yeah. But also, one of the things we say, yes, alternative things to buy, but we have to reduce consumption. So we have to look at why we need to consume as much as we do. And I used to be a massive consumer. When I was working as a fashion editor, I was buying, and why was I buying? I was buying to, I'd have a bad day at work and I'd buy myself something. Or I'd have a good day at work and I'd buy myself something. It was a constant reward. And the result was that I have loads of stuff in my wardrobe. Well, not now because I give so much of it away, that were really, really meaningless. And I don't, and even now I sometimes go, oh, I really want to buy this thing. And I'm like, but okay, no, I can't do it. I don't need it. For God's sakes, I'm a fashion editor. I got the stuffed wardrobe. I don't need any more stuff. What can I do to give me that rush again? So I started to say, oh, maybe I can make something, but it's not quite the same, is it? It's like,
It's not.
it's not, or can I eat? No, I don't want to eat something under the size of a house. So we need to, it's become this pleasure and this right, and we need to redirect that to other, maybe I can treat myself by spending more time with my friends, or do you know what I mean? Or going to see a movie. There is a movement actually within the consumerist movement where the Generation Z are moving away from purchasing. And again, I've got some articles I can send you about absolute disillusionment with purchasing. But Generation Z they're targeting more experiences, and I'm starting to really get that. It's like, okay, no, I'm not going to buy that top that I absolutely do not need. I'm going to take my family out for a lovely meal in this amazing, I'm a vegan, so amazing vegan restaurant. So it's trying to, replace this consumerist attitude that we have in the West. The people in the global South, the idea of going out and shopping as a leisure activity is bonkers because they have nothing and can afford nothing. And I think we know, without sounding like I want everyone to give up all pleasures in life, I think we have to just realize we've been very, very spoiled for a very long time. We're not going to save the planet by simply, do you know what I mean? We're not going to save the planet without some kind of massive change that may feel like a loss, but actually there's a lot to gain. Maybe if I did start sewing my own clothes, I'd get this massive rush that absolutely, completely, overtakes any kind of rush I would get from shopping in a shop. Yeah, so we do really need to think about what we really need, and do we really need any more stuff? I swear to you, everything I could get through the rest of my life without buying another single item of clothing. And then that has implications for what happens with the fashion industry, because one of the things we got is like, well, what about the workers in the global South? They will rely on us, buying loads and loads of clothing that they make really fast for like, pennies a day, and then we need to look at that because it's not, we do. I have no answers for that. We're actually meeting up with some organizations to look at how that could possibly occur.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that when you come up with ideas.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking of putting together an article going, how do we reduce consumption in a just way? Because these are communities that have been built up in response. Well, we're destroying their lands anyway with our carbon emissions. These are not lands on their own. These are not countries on their own that produce that much carbon. But we're destroying, so we're destroying the climate for them. And then we've changed their culture so much that they can only sew cheap, badly made polyester clothing, and they've lost all of their skills and their lands to cotton production. And and how do we we can't just take it all away from them. We have to think about what we could do instead that would support them. I think we have a huge responsibility to poorer countries. Huge, massive, it's truly slavery still.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is absolutely. Yeah. So I guess one last question. Where can I connect with you online?
We've got a very, very, I would say pretty much Instagram is the one to go for. We have got a website, but it's a bit static at the moment. It's one of our plans to get this up and running as some kind of online magazine for our views. But I would say definitely Instagram, which is XR Boycott Fashion.
All right.
And that's got, 18,900 followers, which is brilliant.
All right. Thank you so much.
That's all right. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. A big thank you again to Bel Jacobs of Extinction Rebellion for being a badass and for sharing her experiences of what it's like to be out there on ground level of the fashion revolution. Though Fashion Week may be virtual this year, we don't really know yet how it's going to pan out in our new world. We can still protest and boycott from home. It's as simple as refusing to buy cheaply made fast fashion brands and taking a stance on it online. Be vocal about how you feel. Everybody's online these days and hungry for engagement. Be the first person to broach the subject in your community. And just be brave. And when things fall back into place down the line, if you want to join up with Bel Jacobs or start your own local chapter of Extinction Rebellion, all of their info is on their website, just waiting for you. www.rebellion.global. Thank you for listening. And that's a wrap.
Hey, this is Alphonse Davana from Atlanta. ES Now is holding court production and is produced and written by Courtney Berger. The music is by Parker Ainsworth, fact checked by Justin Howard, and a special thanks to Alexander Shuck.